I'm broadcasting.
The Doctor of Discernment is now online.
You know, much like my show, in that it's a local reaction to things that are happening on a federal level.
Dispensing a daily dose of common sense. No prescription required.
Wow, do I have a boatload of stuff for you, from the crazy to the absurd. Let's start getting into it because, I mean, it is bizarro world out there. And I say, if it's obvious to me, it should be obvious to everybody. Oh, wow. Who could have seen this coming?
This is the Fourth Hour with Greg Belfrage.
Hold on to your butts.
Broadcasting from my basement bunker beneath Kello Radio. Welcome to the Fourth Hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. Great to have you along. I'll mention it in a few moments. Catherine O'Hara, the death of Catherine O'Hara over the weekend, and I was just watching on YouTube some of her old stuff on SCTV. Oh man, she was absolutely hilarious. All right, Punxsutawney Phil made his Groundhog Day winter prediction. He saw his shadow, signifying 6 more weeks of winter weather. I know it's a big deal for some, not so much for me. It's great for the people of Punxsutawney. I don't know whether they're totally into the hoopla, but as to whether it's, I would rather rely on the folks at the National Weather Service. Also, big story this morning, Savannah Guthrie was not on the Today program this morning. Her mother is missing. Her 84-year-old mom, Nancy Guthrie, is missing in Arizona. So she skipped today's episode of the Today Show, and they shared a statement on the show that her mom was missing. And she said, "I thank everyone for the thoughts, prayers, and messages of support." That is absolutely terrible when you have a parent like that. I don't know what the situation there is, but certainly hoping and praying for the best. That's difficult for any family to go through that. You know, we talked about the Grammy Awards last night. I did not mention this on the air this morning. I talked about Bad Bunny getting out there and saying, "Oh, before I thank God, I want to say, he takes a shot at ICE." And I mentioned to you that says something a lot about that person's religious convictions, right? When you say, "Well, I'll thank God in a moment, but first, ice out, everybody." You're going to say ice out before you thank God. That just hits me the wrong way. I don't know how you took it. Just hit me totally the wrong way. Versus Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll won 3 Grammy Awards last night, and he used the moment to praise Jesus Christ. So after he had won the Best Contemporary Country Album, he said, "I know they're going to try to kick me off here, so just let me try to get this out. First of all, Jesus, I hear you. I'm listening, Lord. Second of all, I want to thank my beautiful wife. I would never have changed my life without you. I'd have wound up dead or in jail. I'd have killed myself if it wasn't for you and Jesus. I thank you for that." So Jelly Roll is out there. First thing he's doing is giving thanks to God and thanking Jesus Christ. You don't see that very often, folks. It's, somebody winning 3 Grammy Awards last night, and he's thanking Jesus Christ and his wife for his success. I think that is incredibly, incredibly powerful, which is why I wanted to share that with you. When you find folks that are strong enough to share their Christian faith, their belief in Christ, what Christ has done for them, and the gratitude, in his comments, was pretty inspiring stuff. Also, I mentioned this morning. This story was trending. I want to make a bigger deal of it here. New SNAP work requirement changes took effect on February 1. Millions could lose benefits. Now, Now, wait a minute. Because what's required, I think this was Brooke Rollins was talking to Fox about this. And she told Fox, she said, the American dream is not being on a food stamp program. The American dream is not being on all these programs. That should be a hand up, not a handout. As of yesterday, we have moved 1.75 million people off of SNAP. So under the One Big Beautiful Bill, if you are receiving SNAP, the requirements changed. The age requirements were raised from 54 to 64. There were still some exemptions. However, able-bodied adults with no children, so you're an able-bodied adult, you have no children, you are required to prove your work status, right? You got to, including, there are some exemptions, I think, for American Indians, but able-bodied adults must either work or volunteer 80 hours a month. That would be, for you and me, that would be 2 hours, or excuse me, 2 weeks of 40 hours a week. So 2 weeks out of the month of 40 hours a week, either working or volunteering. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this in the comments section. Please share your thoughts with me. What these requirements, because I think this is spot on. That again, as Brooke Rollins said, I think very, very well, it's required to be a hand up, not a handout. And we want to get you, if you're having issues, we want to take care of you. We want to give you some assistance, but you also need to, if you're an able-bodied adult, you need to earn that by either working or volunteering 80 hours a month. So that would, again, be the equivalent of 2 hours of work, 40 hours of work a week for 2 weeks. It doesn't seem like that's not draconian, at least not in my view. So that, I think those are things, again, look at the number of people who are moved off that program. And I think for those of you who spend maybe a little bit of time on YouTube, you've seen the stories, right? And people out there, and they are living off of these programs, and they use it then to support their job, which is doing this full time. So they're on generally on TikTok, or they're on one of the Instagram. They're on one of the platforms full time, and that's their job. Yeah, a little bit crazy. Also, will Democrats abolish ICE? It's an interesting piece over at townhall.com. Excuse me. I should have muted my. So Democrats have not been secretive about their what their agenda will be should they regain the majority in Congress and the White House. Nuke the filibuster, mass amnesty, pack the Supreme Court, abolish ICE. It will spell doom for our country. They're bragging about it, writes Amy Curtis at Town Hall. And she says, Representative Pramila Jayapal was on MS Now over the weekend, telling voters that the only way Democrats can pass their agenda is if they regain the majority in the midterms. And she said, I hear you calling for abolishing ICE. Republicans are not going to agree to that. We can't completely do what we want to do without the majorities. So what they're pushing here is Democrats are saying we need to win a majority in the House. We need to win majorities in Congress in order to abolish ICE. And it's just more Democrat lunacy. And she was the conversation, turned to, she said, we can't completely do what we want to do without the majorities, but what we can do is insist that ICE and Customs and Border Patrol get out of Minnesota and our cities across the country where they are terrorizing people. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. So if you have liked, what you have seen coming from ICE, if you think the law needs to be enforced, and people who have come into the country illegally often are criminal aliens where they came from. I think it's just a no-brainer. You cannot vote for the Democrat Party. And that's why I was just a little bit shocked when I saw the latest Fox News poll that are saying, oh, yeah, people in the midterms are leaning Democrats. They want Democrats back in power. And I'm not disputing that I will believe anything anymore, seriously, when it comes to the American public, the overall public. At one point, I had said, this is not to demean people, and I honestly do not mean it that way. But as you look around, I think you have got to admit that a lot of people are checked out, man. They are checked out as to what is actually going on, what's happening in this country. And they are buying into whatever is the latest, everybody else is doing this. Therefore, then I got to be a part of this too. Yeah. F ICE and, ICE out, all of that nonsense. I think it appeals certainly to certain people. We see that unfolding. I just don't I just don't want to be that kind of person. I mean, I watch it and I look at the folks who are saying this and I hear the words that are coming out of their mouths and I go, those are not the godly values that my parents raised me with. It just doesn't, I mean, I don't hear any of that. I don't hear, it's not compassion. It's motivated. It seems to me that a lot of it's motivated by disdain, hatred for other people, other points of view. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to believe, totally, it's your decision to make. Believe what you want to believe. This is a free country, and I support, your ability to hold whatever crazy ass viewpoint you want to hold. But the values, as I was talking about Jelly Roll, and giving thanks to, Jesus Christ after he wins 3 Grammys. You just don't see people who are moved in that kind of way. And it's really unfortunate that, and I have no trouble believing just based on what we see unfolding. I'm like, okay, as I watch events unfold in the country right now, does it appear to be a country that believes in God, is centered on godly values, or are we centered in the world? Do we in our own gratification? I think the answer is absolute no-brainer. And that is personally, that's discouraging me to see. There's a pretty intriguing, crazy story. You'll find this at the New York Post. Go to the New York Post. It was a chair knockout at a bar in Australia, a flying chair knockout. And so this was a man who was knocked out by his own, by his buddy, with a hurled chair that was intended for a security guard. Now, again, this is in Australia, but the video is mind-blowing. You see this chair fly, and it's one of those high back, like a high back bar chair, and you see it flying from, I don't know, it looks like 10 feet behind him. You don't see the person throw it. You see him standing, and the chair comes, again, it looks like a span of 8 to 10 feet at least, and hits him square in the back and knocks him flat on the ground. It is crazy. You can find that story at the New York Post. And again, it's Australia bar viral chair knockout. And this is crazy. And they're shouting profanities. Open the beer. They're shouting at the barmaid. And just absolutely crazy. So this it's the bar, one of the owners of the bar says, my bar manager pulled the bottle out of the fridge. She was about to twist the top off when he looked at her and said something inappropriate. I'm not sure what he said, but it made her stop and think, maybe I don't actually want to serve this guy. And so then as she hesitated, then the guy snapped and he screamed, just open the blanking beer. And he wound up throwing this bar chair and winds up hitting his friend, who just, and it knocks him right on his belly, man. It just knocks him flat. I'm like, okay, that's what alcohol will do for you. There's also a piece at the New York Post, and this stuff is just mind-blowing to me. There's video also. There's some video that's making the news. This is video of two thieves using a sledgehammer to smash up the front of a jewelry store in a London street. And their dress, of course, they got masks on, and they smash this window to this jewelry store and then literally peel it off. So they smash it to where they can grab a hold of it. Now, the window does not crack and shatter in a million pieces. It smashes, but it's more of that like safety glass, where it doesn't fly into a million pieces. So they grab it and they peel it away and they start grabbing gems and stuff. And this is crazy. And I think watching what's ongoing in London and the really kind of left-wing policies that come out of London really scare me as to what will, and you see some of this kind of stuff happening in some of the more liberal parts of this country where people start engaging in this kind of behavior. So they were grabbing gems, stuffing them into a shopping bag. London police said all they would say was that crooks stole a number of items. No injuries were reported. There have been no arrests. And it's just crazy. So those of you who had watched the Ted Lasso on Apple Plus, this was a filming location. This London Jewelers was a filming location for Ted Lasso, and it's just absolutely incredible. But you see that kind of lawlessness. It's shocking kind of stuff. And then also, I was very saddened by the news of the death of Catherine O'Hara. And I mentioned her this morning during the show. Both she and Demond Wilson also passed away. Demond Wilson, you would remember from Sanford and Son. Catherine O'Hara, I think probably most folks would know her from Home Alone. She played Kevin's mom. She was also on Schitt's Creek. I remember her most from SCTV. I'm a long time fan of SCTV. I thought that was a great program. If you search on YouTube, Catherine O'Hara, SCTV, I was watching some of these videos before we started this morning, just very briefly. And there was one from the Farm Film Report where she plays Brooke Shields. And she gets out there and dances, and it's absolutely hilarious. So you want to treat yourself to a laugh today, watch Catherine O'Hara on the Farm Film Report on SCTV, because that stuff was, I'm a big fan of SCTV. I still watch it. I loved Monster Chiller, Horror Theater, Count Floyd. There's so many things from SCTV that I just really enjoyed. Catherine O'Hara was a big part of that. So I was very saddened to hear of her death, and especially She was in recent months, she was losing weight and becoming, little unrecognizable to folks who knew her. But again, I think for most people, I would bet Home Alone is where you may know her from. She played Kevin's mom in both the first two Home Alone films, and just an incredibly talented woman. And I'm going to leave it there for today. You have made it to the end of the video. So you are part of my gallery of champions. Special salute for the Bunker Brigade. Those are the folks that are here and commenting each and every day. I appreciate all of you so much. I'm going to leave it there for today. Hope to see you again tomorrow. Until then, I'm underground and gone.